All right. Happy Sunday, everybody. Look at that, folks. When I do my job, y'all show up. Folks are already in the chat because I did what I was supposed to do today again for 2 weeks in a row. I already had everything set up. Did I change my font size and stuff? What happened with my message? Okay. Happy Sunday. Happy subscriber and community member L. Okay. Thank you for being here. Crystal, hey. I must have done something to my. Let me go back and see if I can fix this because we can't see the comments. Just bear with me. So, Anitra, see, this is what happens when you can just fix stuff on the fly. I didn't do that right. Okay, hang on. We gonna get started in just a minute, y'all. What am I doing? There we go. All right, I need to get to where my comments are, and I can't figure it out, but we'll figure it out. Happy Sunday, everybody. Yes, book me for a consultation. I gotta I'm gonna figure this out because we not gonna be trying to strain our eyes to see the comments over here. So just hold on a minute. Let this thing go away. All right. Happy Sunday. I'm fixing this and then I'm gonna get
You
started in
welcome.
just a minute. Um,
You know, uh,
there we go. All right,
I
there we
got
go.
it.
Because I'm not trying to strain my eyes. Happy Sunday. I'm gonna go through. Yes, hit the like. Crystal is already on point doing her work for me that I don't pay her for, but I appreciate her. Yes, schedule a consultation. Good morning, everyone. Anitra, did you freeze? Good morning, everybody. Uh-oh. Hi, Judith. I think Anitra is frozen. I'm gonna kick off and hopefully she'll good afternoon from Jacksonville. Good afternoon. Yeah, my fonts are looking funny today. I'm not sure what happened, but we're gonna fix it. Um, Thank you very much. I appreciate that love. Good morning. All right, I'm gonna do my kickoff. Hope I'm not sure what's happening with Anitra. Uh-oh, she dropped. So I'll do the kickoff and then she can come back. There she is. All right. There you go.
Hi, sorry about that.
That that's okay. I was just getting. I'm gonna do my kickoff, and then we'll be ready to roll. So just bear with me in a just a second. I am not at home today, y'all. So bear with me. As y'all can see, I'm trying to do a lot in a new area. So good morning, good afternoon, depending on wherever you might be. This is Miss Bohemian Soul TV. My name is Jewel Pearson. This segment we are about to kick off is Creating Home, a tiny house series. And the segment is one of the conversations on intimate spaces. And as I introduce myself, I always say that I um, built a fancy tiny house in 2015. And since that time, I have shared my journey to hopefully to inspire others who are interested in this movement. I do offer live content alternating between these conversations and the segment that I host, What's Your Question, where I am answering frequently asked tiny house questions. I do offer coaching and consultations to help others in their tiny house journey, and you will be able to find links to schedule with me in the video description once this is live. And as I'm doing all of that, I like to serve up a lot of representation in the movement along the way. I want us to see ourselves, and this conversation is going to be a whole lot of representation. So, y'all get ready. It is my intent to build figurative and literal community that is inclusive and accessible. And if you find this video and the information helpful, I hope you'll like it, you'll share it, and you'll subscribe to the channel. And also turn on the notifications so that you'll know when content is going live. Okay, I think I did something to my screen. Let's fix this. There we go. All right, Anitra. See, this
Yes.
is this is what happens when you go live. So Anitra and I were talking behind the scenes because we're going to talk about her YouTube channel in just a few minutes, but she's doing production. I'm just doing it on the fly. Um, so this is what happens when you do stuff on the fly, but it is still good. Please introduce yourself to the audience this morning. Thank you for being here, or this afternoon. Thank you so much for being here.
Jewel, thank you for having me. I have been a follower, a fan, a supporter of yours for years. So to be able to chat with you and meet you is a joy. And I'm so excited to be here. My name is Anitra Terrell. I'm the owner of reflectiondesign.com, where I offer authentic African home decor, gifts, and accessories that are handmade in three African countries. I work with artisans in Uganda, Kenya, and Ghana for about 10 years now. And it's been an amazing experience to be able to have built those relationships, but also to be able to offer beautiful, authentic pieces to add joy and connectedness to your homes.
So I am excited about this conversation. So was it a year or so ago when I was in Atlanta and I thought I was going to pop up on you at your spot and you weren't there, and I was so sad because I was trying to meet Anitra in person, but we have been online friends forever, so I feel like she's my sister and I already know her. So I am very pleased to have you on here. Hello, everyone in the chat key. I'm happy to have you here today since you usually are having to watch the replay. So I'm happy that you're in the audience. Good morning. Good afternoon, everybody. Crystal, I love you. Thank you so much for everything that you do for me. Rosalind, that font, I'm not sure about the font. It's probably gonna have to go away. We're gonna work on that. But as I introduce this segment, I always say that I believe our homes tell a story about us, whether it's intentional or unintentional. And as I'm talking to tiny house people, I always say that I feel like there's a lot of intent as about their homes as they go into the design and the build and the decor. Like there's more intent in their decisions around the story that their home is telling about them. And I always say it's so much bigger than the actual tiny house. And the work that you're doing, and as I want to explore everything that you do and the decor from the African diaspora, it's telling a story, and that is so much of what you do. So that's, I feel like it just really blends into what we always talk about here on how our homes tell a story, and the decor that you're working with helps expand that story, and it's so much of my house as well. So talk about your company. So I think as I was reading, I think I saw something that said you actually started the company in 2008 in Ghana. Did I read that correctly?
Well, actually, it started in around 2013, late 2013, early 2014.
Okay.
Um, but what happened was,
What
I
had happened
was
was,
right in 2013. I was laid off. And at that moment, I was just thinking, what is going to be my next move? And I had thought about a trip that I had taken to Ghana a few years prior. That's where the 2006 comes in. I had went to Ghana in 2006. I was there for 8 weeks as a Fulbright Scholar, and I was there as a textile buyer for a museum client that I had. So in the mornings, I would work with faculty at the University of Cape Coast because in that chapter of my life, I was a college professor, and so I worked in academia in the morning, and in the afternoons and the weekends, I would be in the marketplaces and the artisan villages, looking at textiles and woodwork and beading and all the beautiful crafts. And so when I was laid off, I decided, let me sit and think about what were the happiest moments in my life to that point as a source of guidance for what my next step was going to be. And the trip that I had taken to Ghana kept coming up. It kept resurfacing.
mm,
And I thought, well, okay, it was a transformative experience, but what do I do with that in terms of next steps? So one day I was in the store shopping for bedding, and I saw a lot of things that were cute. You know how you go to the store and you're like, yeah, these are nice, it's okay, but it's nothing that really just speaks to you and grabs you. And that was the moment where the two were connected. That was a light bulb moment. And I said, you know what? I'm going to um, help people experience what I experienced in Ghana through their homes. The spaces where we spend the most of our time, the spaces where we create memories. Um, it should feel and be rooted in self and be rooted in who
Yes.
we are and be a
Yes.
source of a foundation, a source of confidence and joy. And so that's where reflection design was born. And that's where the name comes from. Your home should be a reflection of who you are. It should be designed
Right.
to reflect who you are.
Right. So, okay, note to the audience. Did you hear how Anitra said she had gotten laid off and she was trying to think about her next move and she started dreaming what she wanted to do. We always talk about dreaming a new dream and figuring the thing out that brings you joy and passion. And I know the thing that brings me joy and passion, and we were talking about that as well, trying to figure out how I can also make that move so that it is more of what I do versus kind of the side passion and the side hustle. But always dreaming a new dream and figuring out what that looks like. So you also say that you're a storyteller, and as I was just saying, like our houses are telling a story, but you're a storyteller of the African diaspora, of their area and of their culture. What does that mean to you as you're saying that's what you do, and then how do you go about learning the stories that you're sharing?
So a lot of the pieces that we put into our homes, the way that the artisan's hand is used when they're making that piece, it's not random. Typically, the patterns, the figures, they have meaning. Um, a decor cloth is an example of that. Mud cloth is an example of that. A lot of the symbols that we see on textiles, as well as a lot of the large masks that we often see in home decor, many of those masks are used in specific ceremonies, whether it's weddings or funerals, or just other types of events. And so when you introduce those things into your home, you're introducing the artist's hand, the artist's story, the story of that individuals, let's say culture or tribe, even, or just the overall culture of that country. So there's a story in that. And then also, we at, simultaneously, as we bring African decor into our homes, we're also expanding on our own story because
Right.
we're choosing pieces for a reason. A particular color may speak to us, a particular shape may speak to us. And so we're telling our own story as well as we bring those particular pieces in our homes. So it's kind of twofold. We're learning about the culture, the symbolism, but we're also creating our own stories in our homes as we continue to create our environments around us. Now, in terms of how do I go about learning, a lot of times it's just asking questions, asking the artisans, um, what do these particular symbols mean? I also think it's important to dive into the literature. There's so many books out there about African textiles, about African art. Going to museums is a great source to learn more about African art exhibits or particular pieces. And museums typically do a decent job at giving you a little bit more behind the scenes and more of the story as well. So, from books to asking the artisans directly to even just doing some research and just Googling, Adinkra symbols, and you'll find a whole bunch of information about what the symbols mean and what they and with those particular symbols are great because they often mean things like strength or leadership or courage, things that if we think about our own lives, those may be particular words that speak to us, again helping us tell our story, helping us surround ourselves with symbols that remind us of the things we've gone through or the things that we want to celebrate ourselves. So there's many different ways that you can go about it.
Absolutely. And I have something that I want to share later, but the symbol, I know
Ah,
you know the note. I know you know
yes,
it. I can't turn it the right way. This is liberation. This is the Indinka
yes.
symbol for liberation. And for me, just like what you were just saying. So for me, and I have a full sleeve, but this is part of my pathway and my meditation. my
Mm,
pathway to liberation. And this is the reminder. This is absolutely like my mother was like, I can't believe you did that. It was like this is what I need to know because I am working on my liberation and I
mm.
want that for us and for others. And so this is my daily reminder of the what and why. So absolutely I agree with what you just said 100%. Um in that, and as you are interacting in those countries, there has to be it has to be so much of an honor as you're learning and acquiring the pieces. And like you just said, from the hands that are creating the pieces, so from their hands to our homes.
Yes.
Speak to what that is like. I just imagine it would be so emotional for me.
Well, when I was in Ghana, it was definitely one of the most uh, transformative experiences to be able to just sit and watch artisans. I went to a uh, village in the Volta region of Ghana where they weave kente cloth. And just to see the gentlemen at the looms um, weaving those fabrics is just it's inspiring. A lot of the reason is because a lot of the tools that they use may not be as advanced, but it shows
Hmm.
us that we don't necessarily need to have the latest and the greatest and the most technologically advanced tools because these things have been made the same way for centuries. And to be able to see that work in Kenya, a lot of the soapstone carvers that I work with, I asked them to send me pictures of them working so that not only I can see and learn more about it, but also, um, you know, everyone else can too. Customers that visit the website, they can see pictures on the soapstone pieces. And it puts a face to it, it puts a life to it, it puts a culture and a community to it. And I think those pieces will mean more to you in your home because you know that you've not only helped the artisan, but you're also bringing a part of their story and their life into your home, which
Right.
is different than when you get something that's mass produced or
Right.
you just found it randomly. It feels different. It hits different, as they say.
Yeah.
When you could tell that it was made by someone's hands.
Yeah. I think the thing that for me, and my home is full of that. I'm in my office right now, so it's kind of sparse, but it's a little bit in here. Um, the thing that for me with art, African art is, and someone just said something about being informed regarding the items that we introduce into our homes. I think kind of in that conversation, one of the things that is concerning to me is that because of colonialism and white supremacy, there's often a negative connotation attached to art that comes out of African countries
Mm,
because of of what colonialism has done to us as a people. I don't know if you want to talk about that at all. I can just leave that as Jules said it, and you don't have to speak on it. Um, like I, that is just a concern that I have, and I see those comments often where people, especially like around masks and things like that. It is for me part of what I feel like was an intentional an intent to disconnect us from who we are as a people. And so that is concerning to me. And it's something that just sticks with me all the time.
I would agree. It's definitely uh, the intention was to disconnect us. I mean, and not only from the art, but from the music, from the clothing, from the food, the language. I
Yes.
mean, if you recall, when we were brought here against our will, one of the first things that we were told to do was to not speak our native
Mhm.
languages.
Mhm.
And so the disconnect was intentional and from the very beginning. But I will say now, I feel in the past few years, there's been this resurgence. There's been this desire
Good.
to
Yes.
reconnect. And
Yes.
I think we're seeing that across the board. There's more and more filmmakers coming out that are putting
Yes.
out documentaries and films that tell our stories, that tell our history. There's more and more fashion designers and artists. There's a lot more Black interior designers that are being that are doing their thing right now and really showcasing how we can connect the culture. And I see the same thing. I see the same types of responses where people aren't really sure about African decor. And I'm talking about people from the diaspora who aren't really
Mhm.
sure and they
Mhm.
don't think they can identify with it. But I can see now, especially in the past, I'd say 3 to 5 years, that people that we are realizing um, we need to connect because
Yes.
there's strength in that. There's so much
Absolutely.
strength in that. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's the foundation of who we are, and that's why I feel like we often are challenged and struggle because we don't have that foundation,
Mhm.
and that's important in knowing who you are. So I absolutely agree with that, and agree that there is a resurgence, and I'm so happy to see that. Um, as I talk about design, and so I feel like this is so much of a conversation, even um, as part of like tiny houses, because even though we've you're not in a tiny house or any of the things like connected with the movement, but the design piece of a tiny house is so important, and I harp on that all the time. The design of my tiny house and making sure it was for me is what has allowed me to be successful. 2004 will be 10 years for me living in my tiny house, and it is absolutely, thank you. It is absolutely about the design that went into my house, and it is
Mhm.
about the decor that has made it home for me, and makes it the place, my safe space, my happy space. Um, and as I was thinking about this, like I talk about designing for a tiny house or even for a home, like knowing what your must haves are and what your nice to haves are, and then your wish list, because your budget is going to get challenged. And so if you identify before you get to building and before you get to the part
Mhm.
where you have to start making decisions based on budget is being challenged, you know what the things are that you have to have in a house, those must haves, and then you know the things that are the nice to haves and the wish list items, so that you can focus and make sure at the end of all of that stressful period, you end up with a house that meets your needs and makes you happy. One of the things that and again, that's the success for my house. And I'm going to be on Anitra show, I think next month, so I'm not going to focus on my decor because that's what I want to do on the show with her. Um, and talk about the pieces, but I've shared some of the pieces before, so but I'm gonna do that on her show. Um, there was a statement that I saw that you made. I think you made it a couple of times where you say to create a home that feels collected and not decorated. And I absolutely agree with that. But talk to us about what that means.
In my opinion, a decorated home can have a sense of, well, as we were talking about earlier, has that disconnect. It looks
Hmm.
nice, it looks pretty, but is it really you? Does it tell your story? Does it reflect places that you've traveled, places you aspire to travel to, special moments of your life, family, friends, loved ones? Does it reflect who you are? It could be decorated pretty, but does it really reflect who you
Hmm.
are? A home that is collected, on the other hand, does all those things. When you walk into someone's home and you could tell that they've taken the time, because a collected home takes time.
Hmm.
It's a collection of pieces. I remember when I moved from LA here to Atlanta, and you're talking about must haves and nice to haves, you know, we got rid of pretty much 95% of all the furniture. But what was definitely going to make that trip was the
Art
art
and yes, those
and the
pieces.
records
Yes,
And
Yes. Yes.
those are the things that we're definitely gonna make the collection. We're not selling
Yes.
that. It's not gonna be no yard sale. We're not doing none of that. All that stuff's coming. The furniture that can be replaced. But the art and the music, those are the types of things that can make a home feel collected because they're special to you. An album that you may have purchased, 20 years ago, or you went to a record store and you remember picking out that album. That's what a collected home does. It has pieces in it that have those memories. Or you
Hmm.
you went to a vintage store and you found a piece and the person that you know brought the piece into the store just so happened to be there, so you were able to meet the person
Yes.
who brought the piece into the store. You have built a relationship with them and now that piece is in your home. That's a collected home versus a home where you just kind of went, well, they already designed the whole room, so just give me that whole thing and I'll just cookie cut it and put it in my house.
Right.
Again, if that's your vibe, that's what you prefer, that's great. But I think you'll find it more, it'll feel a lot better if you take the approach of creating a home that feels collected. It's a little more curated and a little more specific to you, and it tells your story. Sometimes I'll say your home is almost like your own personal art gallery, like the art gallery or the museum of your life.
Hmm.
So you come
Hmm.
in and people can see on the walls who you are, where
It's
you've
telling that
been.
story.
It's
Hmm.
telling the story, right? It's telling your story. And that's a home that feels collected. That's a home that feels safe, that feels cozy and homey. And you feel excited there, you feel joy there. And I think only a collected home can do that versus a decorated home.
I agree with that. Um, I can't remember how long ago it was, and I tried to look on my Facebook page and couldn't find, I mean, on my Instagram page and couldn't find it. But and I'm pretty sure it was you that had put up a post one day that said, when you look at my home, you see me. And
Yes.
I know it's been over a year ago, and that resonated with me because when you look at my home, you see me. And I spoke about this a couple of weeks ago because as I have had my challenges in this movement, and have spoken about like the racism that I've encountered in the movement, and I've talked about that publicly. I've had people who have said, we don't want to hear about that. Like we just wanted to look at her
Mm,
home and the decor. And that always resonates with me. To look at my home is to see me, and you don't get one without the other. You don't get to peep through my decor and admire my decor, but I then have to be silenced of my story because my home is still telling that story, and my home is representing me. So before I have another question, but I want to address something Crystal said. Also, art. So, and y'all, I don't know what happened to my font. I'm gonna fix it. It's annoying me so much right now. But Crystal said art can be expensive. Not all of us have the means to afford art. Not all of us can afford housing, so decor isn't really of high importance. So, Anitra, I'm gonna let you speak to that, but I also want to say art doesn't always have to be expensive. The collecting of art. So some of the art that I have in my house actually are pictures that my daughter, and my nieces and nephews created that I framed. And some of it I
mhm,
had professionally framed. Some of it I framed myself. You can buy cheap frames. One of the largest piece that I have in my sunroom space of the black man holding the woman up on the earth, and I think everybody knows that. It's actually two posters that my mother gave me years ago, and I had them later on. I had them framed, and they were most in a lot of houses they have them side by side because it's two posters. I had them framed the way that the
mm,
man is holding up the woman. So art doesn't always have to be expensive. Even now, the stores like Ross, and a lot of even my African art early on, some of the pieces that I collected, I would get at World Market and Target. Not Target, World Market and TJ Maxx. Ross now has a whole collection of black art. If you're interested in black art, that for me is, and I saw somebody else saying how. Well, I'll talk about that in a minute. But I want to address that. Like it's not. It is some art can be expensive, absolutely, but there is also an opportunity to do it inexpensively as it works for you. And I get that housing is a priority and art is a bonus and is a privilege in some ways. But I also want to address that it doesn't always have to be expensive. So Anitra, I'll let you speak to that if you want to.
One of the things that um, as we think about our homes and we think about decorating our homes and just our lives period is to not look at it in terms of how we've been told our home is supposed to look or
Mm,
how we've been shown by others who don't reflect us how we're supposed to live. I think that's kind of the initial uh, thought is I can create a home that reflects who I am. It doesn't have to look like anyone else's home. It doesn't have to fit any stereotype any type
mhm.
of
Mhm.
what magazines show us or fancy coffee table books show us about what a decorated home can look like or a collected home can look like. It can really be whatever you want it to be. I have
Right.
concert posters. Um, I have concert posters that I've framed. I
Mhm.
have postcards that I've framed. Things that cost little to no money. The concert poster was free. The postcard was free, but the imagery was so pretty
Right.
that I decided
Right.
to frame it, and boom, it's now art. Um, you can create an art. You can be an art collector of whatever type of art you want.
Mhm.
If you love textiles, for example, you can go to the thrift store, find some fabrics, wrap it around a wooden frame, staple it, and hang those fabrics up on your wall. Or while you're at the thrift store, you can find some fabric, find a picture frame at the thrift store, and put the fabric inside the picture frame. Um, so I definitely want to encourage everyone to think what is my style? What
Mhm.
am I passionate about? What do I love to see? And how can I create that in my home on a budget that works for me? It's not
Right.
about aspiring to have, something that might not even be your vibe. I mean, you may not even like grandiose, thousands and thousands of dollar type of art. I mean, that might not even be your
Yeah.
vibe, but you may love textiles or you may love um figurines, for example. So it's really about asking yourself, what do I love? And what have been my story? And really look through the things that you probably already have in your house, pictures, postcards, scrap pieces of fabric, and saying, how can I take the things, album covers, that's a big thing. A lot of
Yeah.
people like to frame records, um, CDs. If anybody still has CDs around, I have a boxes full of CDs. Clearly, I'm a music head. So CD covers, the real small ones about that big. I'm sure you could find a cool frame with put your old school CD covers inside of them and frame them. It's really about what is your style.
What is your story? Let your
Not
art tell your
yeah,
story.
let your art tell
Absolutely.
your story on your
Absolutely.
budget.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, Crystal, you also made a comment where you said you were thinking that mass produced art was contrary to what we were talking about. So when I just said I found pieces in Market, in TJ Maxx, and Ross, what I know is some of them are authentic art pieces. How they got it or is a whole different story. But it is still the same art. And they may have not gotten it the most ethically way, like Anitra is getting things, and they're not telling the story. So it is in a TJ Maxx or somewhere else. World Market used to do, or still does, where they're telling the artist story. So oftentimes they'll have some content on the tags and kind of tell the story. TJ Maxx ain't really doing that. It's on the shelf. as I've thought about it and acquired art from them over the years, I felt like I'm rescuing this piece of art from TJ Maxx's shelf, and I'm taking it to my black house. So that's the way I feel like I'm doing a service here, getting it off of this shelf for people just to walk by and not appreciate its beauty. And I think I'm taking it home because I know what this represents, and this is some beauty that I want in my house. So um, it it doesn't mean that it can't be mass produced, and not still be art. So again, I think it goes back to the basis of what Anitra said is what does it mean to you? What does art look like, and mean to you, and designing your home accordingly. Um, the other thing that you said that, and I want to share some of your pictures in just a few minutes. But one of the things that you shared, and I shared it this morning, was your quote about first you create the space, and then the space creates you. Um, and I probably didn't say that exactly right. But I've also shared that as part of my tiny house journey because I created this home. I create and I say it in my workshops and I say it to everyone here. I started out just building a tiny house, but that journey became so much bigger than just a tiny house. And the house changed me, and it continues to change me. It continues to shape me. It changed people around me for good and for bad. And it has become a whole journey and a story. And that's what happens as you're creating the space. And I love that quote that you shared.
Well, I think it's well, I'm going to go back for a second because you mentioned a quote uh, that I like to share, and it just came to me. You're right, probably about a year ago, and it was to see my home is to see my
Yes, to
culture,
see me. Yes. Oh, that's it.
and in
That's it. That's
seeing
it.
my culture,
Yes.
yes, yes, to see my
Yes.
home is to see my culture, and in seeing my culture, you see
You
me.
see me. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for. I tried to find it and I couldn't find it. It's been a while, so I'm glad it came to you. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's important here because for so long we have not, or we've been discouraged from not showcasing our culture and then basically not showcasing ourselves. We've been
Right.
kind of hiding, play along to get along. And so even if you have to step out in the world and code switch and do different things, when you walk through your front door, that should be the space that
Yes.
is you.
Yes.
That should be the space that recharges you and lights you back up so that you can step back out into the world. And so I wanted to come back to that quote just because I think that's important to note here, especially when we're talking about creating our environments and how our environments create who we are. Because it is a journey that changes as we change, as we get older,
Yes.
we get wiser, we
Yes.
have different experiences, our tastes change. And so as we evolve, our homes are going to evolve too. And so I thought it definitely wanted to make sure I touched on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Um, okay, so I'm going to answer one question and then I want you to walk us through some of your art. So Sadiq is asking, when you designed your tiny house, what was your process? Did you build it around your art or was the art an afterthought? And so I'm not going to go into this a lot because I am going to be on a Dietrich show and we're going to talk about stuff like that. But and I'm going to show stuff, but what I will say is so much of the art that I have in my tiny house, I have had for many years. I have had um, it since my home in Atlanta when did I get a divorce? Let me do this math. Since 1999,
Mm.
2000, a lot of my art I've had since that time. And that's one of the things when I'm buying art. I'm not, I'm, I haven't always spent a lot of money on art. I might spend some money on a nice piece, but I don't spend a lot of money on art because Crystal, just like what you said, I was a young single mother. So the decisions around whether we're gonna have groceries and I'm gonna pay this mortgage or buy this piece of art, clearly I gotta feed myself and a kid. So I've not been an art connoisseur, but I have been a world market shopper, a Pier One, and I miss Pier One, a
Yeah.
One and a world market shopper, and they've always had beautiful ethnic pieces, and I would invest in them or stalk them for a sale, to invest in those pieces. And so a lot of my pieces I have had since my home in Atlanta. And as I was building my house, to get back to answering your question, those pieces were in my head of where they were going to go in my build. And there were certain places like Mandela, and I started to share a picture, but I'm going to share a picture of Mandela on Anitra's show. Mandela has been at my front door since about 1998. And so at
Mhm.
every place that I've lived, he has been at my front door. And he absolutely was going to be at the front door of my tiny house. And so as I was designing, that was key to, can Mandela stand in this space? And that's important. So that is part of it is my story. It is my journey. And my house is absolutely my culture and me. So yes. And yes, we are constantly evolving. So thank you. I love that y'all are so engaged in this conversation. I love y'all. So I want to share my screen because I want, let me do that right. You should be able to see the slides. Can you
Yes.
see? Okay, good.
Hmm.
All right, I did do that right. So talk to us. We're going to look through some of the pictures you shared. Talk to us about what we're seeing. Tell
So
us the
this
story.
is Yeah, so this is the front room in my house. So this is not a stylized, photo. This is actually my home. And what I decided to do, this is a chaise lounge that I got at IKEA. So you can figure out where you want to spend your money. Do you want
Mm-hmm.
to and just balance that out for yourself? So I decided to save some coins by going to IKEA, but I draped a large piece of cohogo cloth, which is what you see here. I draped that on top of the chaise to give it a more cultural and warm feel. And Corhogo
Mm,
cloth, you can see all the images there. They typically depict daily life in African villages. So you'll see the
okay.
images, the huts, the masks that we talked about before that are used in ceremonies. So it's really a good way. And each of those images, represents something, whether it's harvest or whether it's home or whether it's family. And so I decided to drape that across the shades.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And that orange over there is popping.
Now, these are baskets, spoons, and drink coasters that are in my collection. Those are available at reflectiondesign.com. And um, they were created by female artisans in Uganda. Um, and so it was a beautiful opportunity to talk to them. And what I love to do is kind of work with them so that we can talk about colors and design. So it's very much a collaborative process. And so all those items are available on the website. But this one, very excited about. I just launched a collection of African pattern coffee mugs. It's a collection of 9 mugs that are inspired by African print fabrics or Ankara fabrics, as they're also known. And so it's another way for you to incorporate African pattern and style and design into your home that's budget friendly. You may not want to invest in large amounts of African fabric, but you love the patterns. So you could start with something smaller like a coffee mug to introduce the pattern. And so you can still get that bit of joy and culture in your daily routine when you're having your coffee and tea.
And I am in the market for some new mugs. So when I was looking at your stuff, I was like, okay, that's why I haven't found anything I wanted, because I need to get it from you. So I will be doing that.
Thank you. This is actually a large piece of mud cloth, and what I love about this one, obviously the color is just popping, but also that it's a solid piece. A lot of mud cloth fabrics have symbols on them, but I liked this, and I offer this on the website because it is just a solid color. So maybe you're not necessarily into the symbols, or you really just want the color. It's a good way to introduce the fabrics and the textiles. Um, in a
Yeah.
way that you still get that benefit, but the
Yeah.
actual the patterns and all that might not be your thing. You might be more of a minimalist, so you might just prefer the solid color. And so I introduced some solid color mud cloth for people who just want that pop.
Okay. What about those bracelets?
Ah, I knew you were gonna say that. I knew you were gonna say that.
I'm not getting ready to
Oh,
move till we talk about them.
okay, okay. You know what? Every time I post this photo on social, I get asked that question, and I'm like, you know what? I'm trying to share some mud cloth with y'all, and y'all ask me about these bracelets.
You should have took off
They,
the bracelets then. They're
you
distracting.
right,
The
you
mud
right,
cloth is
sis.
beautiful, but we also need to talk about them.
You right, sis. I hear you loud and clear, and I'll say this coming soon to
Okay.
reflectiondesign.com.
Okay. Well, I'll let you off the hook coming soon. Now these I adore. And what I will say, so as I watch the stuff that you share and some other folks I follow, for me, because decor and design are so much of my love, I always think, God, I need a bigger house so I can put some of the more of this stuff in my house. And that is so backward. But I just look at stuff and I was like, that basket, I would love to have this basket full of those utensils, and I can't do it, but I just live through you. So talk to us about this. This is gorgeous.
Thank you. So these are my peace and power spoons. Those are actually large spoons. So they're large. You can stir soups with them. Um,
Mm,
use them as salad tongs. So they're pretty large actually, and those are always a hit every time I introduce those. And the feedback is great because the symbolism touches people across the gamut.
yes,
Um, it because peace and power can mean different things to different people.
right.
And so it could be, peace like from the 60s and 70s. A lot of customers resonate with that. If they're in that age group, they're like, "Oh, I love that. It reminds me of, Power to the People."
Yeah,
And then of course the Black Fist, that has
yeah,
many meanings to us across the diaspora. But just people, other groups as well that want to experience that sense of power or that sense
yeah.
of peace in their home.
I,
And I like to say that the pieces that uh, I offer it on the website are functional art. So
mm-hmm.
it's one if you're going to spend the money, at least consider things that you'll actually use on a daily
Right,
basis or
right.
often. And the Peace and Power spoons are a perfect example of that. These are hand carved in Kenya,
Oh my God.
and so it's art, but it's also functional.
It's functional. I just added them to my list. Oh Lord. I love this picture.
Oh, thank you. This is Ghana, circa 2006, many moons ago.
When you were
And
figuring out all of the things.
yeah, yeah. I wish I could go back and I would tell her, stay there a couple more weeks. You have
I
so much
love
more to
this.
learn. Stay there and keep
Yeah.
learning, continue learning.
Suck, suck it
Um,
in.
right.
But yeah, I love this picture.
And so this is the concert poster that I
Yeah,
was
I was
talking
just getting
about
ready.
earlier.
I was just getting ready to point that out. Crystal, do you see the art on the wall? Posters and fabric.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
this
And
is
plants.
literally yes. Yes, this is literally me practicing what I preach. What you see
Mm-hmm.
in that corner is a concert poster. I'm originally from Philly, and Ursula Rucka is a poet, performer, artist. If you don't know, she's
I know
the
her
bomb.
name, yes.
And so I went to see her in concert, and this poster, and I'm actually looking at it. I'm sitting right across from it. It's from 2006. To your point,
Yeah.
Jewel, about
Mm-hmm.
having art in your home that you've had for decades. I went to
Mm-hmm.
see her in concert in 2006, kept the poster, framed it immediately, and then on the other wall is two pieces of fabric that I framed. And I got those picture frames at IKEA.
Mm.
And I just cut the fabrics in a place in the pattern that I liked and framed it, and boom,
Yep. Yep. The
very little cost.
very little effort and cost. And other things, so look at the basket that the plant is in. So I have a lot of my plants in baskets as well. Very inexpensive baskets, but then it is the artwork that adds to the decor. Just putting a plant over in a basket versus a regular pot.
Hmm.
Um, so while we're talking, I'm going to keep going, and all of this information will be in the video description. But while we're talking, Anitra, tell people where you're located in Atlanta.
So I am in Atlanta, been here since about 2019. And I actually have a retail space at West Side Market, which is in Midtown Atlanta, space number 303. I have a retail space there, so you can check out the collection up close at any time if you're in Atlanta, and they're open 7 days a week.
Is that
And
the
so,
same spot I tried to come visit you at? Or
yes,
okay,
yes,
okay, okay,
yes. And so they have
okay.
their own staff that man the
Right.
store. Um, so I don't necessarily have to be there, but to your point, in the new year, I'm going to be more intentional about kind of setting some dates, a couple dates per month to pop up at my space so that I can meet folks in person because I love doing that.
I'll
And
be
so
back
that's where you
then.
can shop me.
I'll be back to visit. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness. So
let
this
me
is
know. Let
I
me know so that I
okay.
can be there.
I definitely will. So now this brought me joy because I have so much of this fabric in my house and seeing someone and how it's made. Just this is the education piece of it and the telling the story that I think is so important.
Yeah, this is mud cloth, and as you can see, it is made by hand, and it's beautiful because men and women play a role in making this fabric. As you can see, men typically stamp the weave and add the pattern.
Okay.
Women typically dye the fabric. So in this case, this one is white, but in a lot of mud cloth you
Mm-hmm.
might see is either black or it's a beautiful mustard color,
Yes.
or blue. The blue one that I showed you that you shared, that was a solid color. Women typically dye the fabrics, and then men add the artwork. So it's also a beautiful example of collaboration in that way.
It's beautiful. One of my guests in the audience is trying to get you to open up a satellite studio in Houston. They said there's a huge African population. It's the most growing, diverse city in the nation, and they would also shop there. So that was several plugs. Wayne, you put your plugs in there really well.
I'm gonna keep that in mind, Wayne. Thank you. I've not been to Houston. I've been to
Oh, I
Austin, but I've
like
not been to
Houston. I
Houston. So
love
I'm gonna have to
Houston.
go.
Yes, you do. Oh, this is so beautiful. This is gorgeous.
So this is my dining room. And no, it does not look like that on a regular basis. It doesn't look anything like that on a regular basis. But on special occasions, I like to set the
It's
table.
gorgeous.
And it is, again, it's a collection. The spoon and the fork that are on the wall are actually my partner. Those are his grandmothers
Oh, wow.
that she passed down to him. And see that's what I mean when I say collected. It's pieces
Yes.
from relatives, pieces from that we gather over the years. And so I just wanted to create a space that was cozy, but I love mid-century modern design and furniture, so I wanted to combine the two.
Yeah. The thing I like about this, and it's kind of like the people always comment that I layer my decor in my house. But as I'm looking at your table, it's not matchy matchy. The two candle holders are not the same. If you look at the place settings, they're not all the same. The pillows and the chairs are not the same. It is it is well put together, but it's not matchy matchy, and it's just gorgeous in layered, so many different patterns. That's the other thing that that people don't recognize. You don't have to have all blues and just one thing with some patterns to it. You can put a whole bunch of patterns in a room, and it's still going to be just as beautiful, like this room demonstrates. Okay, somebody else is from Houston. They just agreed that looks like you're expanding to Houston. This
I
is
love that
gorgeous.
idea.
This is
Thank
gorgeous.
you.
And Rosalind just said that rug has given her life. Me too. Me too. I love it.
So these are pillows, and again, a different type of mud cloth fabric. These are available in the shop, and mud cloth is probably one of my favorite African textiles. So
Hmm.
a lot of the pieces that I create, these pillows, for example, are designed in house. So I also have pieces um, that we create in house,
Oh wow.
um,
Okay.
just to yeah, just to kind of balance it out. And so these are an example of that. So as I said, mud cloth is one of my favorites. So any opportunity that I had to create something that speaks to those types of patterns or designs, I like to do that. And so I introduced a collection of pillows with various African patterns on them.
I love them. I love them. Look, they go to and somebody's pointed out your thumb ring last time. I had missed
Oh,
talking
the
about the
ring.
thumb ring.
Okay.
So they
Okay.
wanted the thumb ring and the bracelets. But remember, y'all, she is showing us mud cloth. She's not displaying the jewelry right now. So y'all stay focused, like Tabitha would say.
You
Stay
know what?
focused.
You know what? I would say everybody, join the email list because I appreciate all of the feedback. When I hear get these types of questions and comments, it's the community is speaking. So
Yes.
the more that I hear that type of feedback, the more I can say, okay, let me revisit some things and see let me talk to the artisans and see what we can put together and offer in the shop. So I hear you. I hear everybody.
Okay, she's
Bracelets and
listening.
rings.
She's listening.
I'm
Yep.
listening. Stay tuned.
That mud cloth is beautiful. I have a piece in my house that color. I absolutely adore it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that was the end of your pictures, and I just wanted to share. So I wanted to share as you were talking about you referencing the Indigenous symbols and mud cloth. So mud cloth was when I did my rebranding in 2020. I wanted to reference because as I was rebranding to the Afro Bohemian the who I really am from the Miss Gypsy Soul, I wanted my logo to reflect that. And so
Mm-hmm.
mudcloth is what inspired my logo. And so the dot, so if we're looking at like in the most Miss Bohemian Soul, the first symbol, the O in Bohemian is from good fortune, the Indinkra symbol that I have circled over here. That is representative of good fortune. And when I was thinking about this in 2020 is when I had just moved my home from another location where I'd had some problems with racism and didn't feel safe. And so I felt like I was walking into a new era. And so good fortune was part of what I wanted to start off in this new space that I was moving to. So that is the first O is the Indinkra symbol for good fortune. And then if you look in the other O in the soul, it is the circle with the dot in it. And I know you already know this, but that circle with the dot in it represents community in mudcloth design. And so that
Mm-hmm.
was also very intentional because I wanted to build and grow community figuratively. And I keep saying, that is on my dream list to actually design a tiny house community. And so for me, it was like speaking in intention in my logo as I'm looking at this. And then the last piece of it, the X in my luxury and my tagline is from mudcloth. And over on the right hand side, you can see that double X of mudcloth. And that double X represents luxury. And so my
Mhm.
tagline is you don't have to give up luxury. And I wanted that double X in luxury. And so it was so much of the thought process as I was redesigning my logo and just the fabric and my house and all of those things. So I did want to share that. And so thank you for walking us through um, all of the content. So you've got um, folks on your website. Crystal said, "I don't need one more damn journal," but she's got one on sale. I looked at it too, Crystal. I left it. I left it for you because I looked yesterday and I said the same thing, Jewel. I know it's a new year, but you have some journals you have not used. You cannot buy another journal. So I left it for you, Crystal. Go ahead and buy one. Take one for the team, for us. I got some other stuff over here I'm buying on my list. Rosalind is saying blue is her primary color scheme for her tiny
Mm.
house, but she likes the mustard for a pop of color. Absolutely. Yes, so everybody is so your shop is popping. So y'all make sure y'all paying attention as y'all over there popping. And you're over there popping into her shop buying stuff. Still pay attention. Um, what so as you have gone through the journey, and somebody said you did not get laid off, you got delivered, and I agree with that because
Woo!
that is everything.
A
They said that
word.
early.
Ashe, ashe,
They said that
ashe.
early on. You did not get laid off. You got delivered.
Thank you for
And
that. I received
they
that.
spelled it delivered like that guy. That video of the guy who kept saying delivered. I don't know his name, but they spelled it that way. But you absolutely got delivered, and I'm waiting for my deliverance.
Mm.
Um, what what have you learned about yourself in this journey? What is this as you're doing all of this? What has this journey helped you discover about yourself or taught you?
I think the storyteller piece, this journey has taught me that we need to see ourselves and we need
Mm,
to have our stories told. I mean, I've
mm,
learned a lot of things personally, as a business owner, patience and, fortitude and all that. But in terms of the overall lesson that is starting to come up for me more and more, which is why I started my YouTube channel, was that we need to have our stories told. We need to see ourselves expressing joy at home. It's not always about the drama. It's not always, we're not a monolith. Um, and we need to see examples of that. When we think about what our home should look like, we really don't have too many examples coming from people who look like us.
mm-hmm,
So what's
mm-hmm,
been what's been standing out to me lately in terms of lessons and in terms of purpose and mission and where I need to take reflection design next, it's been storytelling. I need to be one of the spaces where people can come and learn and see themselves at home, and see examples of other people who look like them expressing joy at home, living their best
mm,
lives at home. We
mm,
entertain, we play games at home, we have movie nights, we have dinners, we do it all. We decorate, and this is how we decorate. My YouTube series is called How We Live for a reason, because it's about how
mm-hmm,
we live and how it's unique to each and every one of us, but there's still some common threads. I think the biggest lesson that I've learned is that be a, I need to be a space to tell those stories. I need to be a voice to show us, because we don't really know. So the only references we have are homes and spaces that don't reflect who we are. So there's that friction. I want to decorate, but do I want to decorate like that? I
mm-hmm,
guess.
mm-hmm,
But deep down,
mm-hmm,
you're like, this isn't really me. So I won't do it at all, or I don't think it's important. Um, but in actuality, it can be extremely important, extremely transformative to decorate your home and collect. create a collected space that reflects who you are. So for me, I'm learning to offer the pieces on my website is beautiful. I enjoy that because I get to work with the artisans directly. I get to share unique items with all of you. But I've also learned that the next phase of my journey is to tell the stories and to show examples of how we live across the diaspora, to inspire and to show us, yes, we do live and we live well and we live happily, whatever that looks like for us, whatever that looks like for that individual. And to be able to share those stories is been, I'm realizing that's what I need to do.
I agree with that 100%. I feel like your home is your sanctuary. And for me, and it is so much more for me because having designed and built my tiny house, I absolutely adore it. But I adore it even more now as I have um, it fully is, it is more a fuller expression of who I am as I've done some of my changes with my decor and my colors. And you're right, it is what what does society say a home should look like, and is your home really a reflection of who you are and what you feel? And there's so much peace. Like I'm a music head just like you. There's always music in my home. And it is just sometimes like the days when the outside world isn't going or acting like I needed to act, that that inside sanctuary
Hmm.
is everything. And then when you think about it, like if we think about, even if we think about the movies that represent homes in the 60s and the 70s, and we think about our homes, they were always places of refuge, and the decor was because it was the safe space. It was literally the safe space out from outside the world. And so it may not have been the elaborate decor, but it was the family space, and it represented family. And the things that were in there were key to the family enjoyment in this space. And so I think that's important for us to continue that, and to see it. And as you're saying, the representation, because that is also like why I do this work, because I want us to see ourselves. I want us to see ourselves in this movement. I want us to see ourselves represented. So absolutely. Key said something that I wanted to I feel the soul of this conversation. When my kids were little, I was exhausted and felt creatively dead. Healing started in 2015. Creativity is always flowing, and it looks differently for everyone. Absolutely. I agree with that. Like as you evolve, um, you absolutely recognize that the creativity is part of what helps you evolve, and it helps you be well and helps with the healing. So I agree with that 100%. Um, Wayne is saying our home should be filled with art of our melanated ancestors. It's spiritual. You should feel it when you step into my space. Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. Um, So Rosalind is over on your IG shop, and she just wanted to. I'm gonna put this plug out there. She said the prices are very affordable. So, thank you, Rosalind. Crystal says
Thank
she just bought
you.
three. She just bought three items. Y'all get on over there. Thank y'all. These look. If you're not, buy it for yourself or gift it. This is a great
Thank
gift. I
you.
saw a bunch of
Thank
great
you.
gifts over there. Um, and I absolutely will let you all know when I'm going to be on Anitra's show. Um, I got two more questions and then we're going to wrap up. So, as I share, and I think you already talked about this, and we talked about it a little bit, where I've said like the evolving of the tiny house for me, just building a house, but then it's reshaped me, like that quote we talked about. How has this journey, and I think you just really answered this. If there's anything else you want to speak to it, if not, we can keep moving past it. How has this journey, the work that you're doing, has it changed your value system at all, or the way you want to, the ways that you show up now in the world, from the start?
Really, it strengthened what I already had a feeling and what I already knew to be true.
Mm,
You know, as I mentioned earlier, I grew up in Philadelphia, so which is a very art rich city. So I was familiar with um, a lot of the beautiful murals that are in Philly. There's also lots of festivals, African festivals. The Day Festival is one of them. So I was exposed to a lot of art. And then, of course, there are artists in my family, musicians. And so I was exposed to art and culture in the home, but also in the city that I grew up in. So I already knew how great we are, but taking my trip to Ghana, that kind of reinforced it like, wow, we are really dope. And then after starting a business where I work with artisans in 3 African countries, so I'm on the East Coast of Africa, the West Coast of Africa, and just to see the differences in the techniques and the different types of art forms, it really just strengthened what I knew to be true, and that is that we are talented, we are beautiful, we are dope. Uh, our artistic endeavors and our ancestral crafts are transformative, and that we need to talk more about them. We need to share
yes,
them because
yes,
these art forms
yes.
too, we want to keep these art forms alive. And one of the best ways to do that is to talk about them and to support them, support the artisans. As I said before, I work with them directly, so it's not a situation where I just buy things and then
Right.
give them a percentage of sales. No, 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 no. We work directly together. So they're paid first, they're paid up front, and then I receive the items and then I offer them on my shop. So it's very much about economic empowerment, which is another thing that I want to just mention when we talk about supporting artisans across the
Not
diaspora.
causing harm. Yeah.
Right, not causing harm and coming from a place of economic empowerment versus charity, which can be very one time here
Mm-hmm.
and there kind of thing. But economic empowerment is something that's generational, that's long lasting. And so it's emboldened me, it's empowered me through this journey to know what I already knew is
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
when we support each other, when we surround ourselves with pieces that reflect who we are, with items in our home, we feel empowered, and it's empowered me
Absolutely.
that much more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, we can talk forever, so I'm gonna save some of this conversation when uh, um,
I know, I know.
one of the things that I think
And
I
your
saw
audience is
somebody.
great, by the way. I have to say,
What'd you say?
I said your community is great. I appreciate
I
everyone
love
coming and
them.
their
I
comments and
love
questions.
them.
Your
I
community
love
is
them.
dope. Shout out to
They they
the
show up
viewers.
on they show up on Sundays for me, and they have a whole conversation going. There's usually some comedy over in the chat, but I have to check on one of my friends who leads the comedy. I haven't seen him in a couple of weeks, so I need to check to make sure he's okay. But they are fabulous, and I appreciate them so much. One of the things that I saw Crystal say she bought some things and she's going to use the fabric to wrap her locks in her hair. But there was a comment earlier that I chuckled about because I did the same thing when I had locks. I think I saw somebody say that they use their fabric to wrap their locks and then they put it right back for the decor. Absolutely. All of my pieces can be used to wrap my head at any given point, and then I'm gonna drape it over this chair or drape it over my bed because it is decor.
Yes,
Multifunctional is absolutely the way to go. we
yes.
we we talked about that. That is important. Absolutely. Robert, yes, Robert. I don't know where Robert is. So we have to figure out. So Robert is one of my I've never met him, but he's proposed to me at least 5 times in the chat. So he keeps them laughing and going, and he's really funny. But we haven't seen Robert in a minute, so I need to check on him. Um, so, one other my last question, because I got so much more to talk about, but I'm saving it for Anitra show. I will share it so y'all can come on over to her channel, and we'll talk about all of the things, because decor design, this stuff is my love. What would be the title of your autobiography, Anitra?
Oh, that's a tough one. I would say she believed she could, and so she did.
I like it. I like it. You got delivered. You started
That
on a new
too.
path. You got delivered. You started on a new path. You believed you could, and you did, and you have, and you continue.
Yeah, I think that would be it. I mean, there's probably a whole bunch of other ones, but you know, that pretty much sums it up.
I
Even
like
when
that.
I felt like I couldn't, I had to go back to, but you can. You know, when
Mm-hmm.
you start to feel that self doubt, or you start to feel
Mm-hmm.
down, and going through the highs and lows of entrepreneurship and just life in general. You have those moments where you feel like you can't, but then you have to remind yourself, yes, you can.
That you can.
Yeah,
That you can.
you can, and you
Absolutely.
will, and you've done it before, so you'll do it again.
Absolutely. And I think for you, it is very similar to me. And I've shared this with the channel before. Like what you said, when life is lifing, or sometimes I'm at work and something is happening and I feel like that imposter syndrome can pop up, or sometimes at work, um, and they all of a sudden have you feeling like you don't have a seat at the table, or
Mm.
whatever. When life is lifing, sometimes I just sit there, and where I'm questioning myself, my ability, my skills, all of the things. And then I have to sit there and say, you are sitting in a house that you designed and built from a trailer over there. That's the part that you built from a trailer over there. And then you did it again with the sunroom. You did that again, starting with graph paper. Whatever they're talking about, it's it's doable. You can do it, and that
Mhm.
for you is the same. It's the visual representation. That is why when I talk about like your home being that place of support for you, the things that are in that house that tell your story, that tell you and remind you who you are. And it's the same with you, like looking around at the decor in your house and the work that you're doing and the connections that you've made. That is telling you over and over the story of, I've done it, I'll keep doing it, I'll do it again. This is minor, or this might be a step back, but absolutely I can, and I'll keep doing these things.
One of the main things that I'll say that I've also learned through this journey, and it speaks to your point, is turning that pain or that frustration into policy.
Mm,
Policy maybe for how you govern your life moving forward, how you show up, knowing what questions to ask in advance before you're in a situation that no longer serves you or is stressing you out. Um, Policies and how you govern your business relationships. Again, how do you structure your business in a way that it still feeds you instead of drains you?
mm,
So that that has been a major lesson. Is turning those moments of pain into policy. Um,
I like that.
Turning so and often those moments are temporary. So remembering that too, like this too shall pass. It is temporary. I mean, I feel like at the time, but it is temporary. And so
Right.
figuring out how to turn those moments, how to turn those pains or frustrations into policy so that you're governing your life differently, that is the major key.
Yeah. Into policy. Key said, so I'm pleased to have Key in the chat today because Key usually leaves me comments, but Key is working and doesn't make the lives. So Key said we should not have teased her with this session and not have your show for the follow-up to continue the conversation. It's happening in January, so I promise we'll share the dates, and so you all can all be there. She's also saying that she was locked for 25 years and used wraps and things. And congrats, Key. I see you say you're launching your product in 2024. Congrats. You know, we've
Yes.
always I've always been supporting, so I'm ready to support as you launch in 2024. We're right there. Turning pain into policy. Yes, that was beautiful, and not only resonated with me, it resonated with everyone. What so I'm what is a question or something that a question that I didn't ask that you wish maybe I had asked, or something that you want to talk about?
Hmm. I think I think we've touched on a lot of wonderful things. Like you said, I could talk with you for hours, and I can't wait for our episode because I have so many questions for you as well. Um, but I would just say think about what your I would just reiterate that point. Think about what your the lifestyle that you want,
Mm-hmm.
not the lifestyle that you think you should have, or the ones that other people are projecting on you, or the ones you
Mm-hmm.
see on the outside
Mm-hmm.
world. Dig deep and think about what is the lifestyle that you want? What is the home that you want to create?
Right.
And enjoy
Right.
the journey and the process of collecting pieces that will help you do that. You'd be
Right.
surprised how much differently you float through the world when you have a space that recharges you and reflects you, and when you
Absolutely.
create a life that
Absolutely.
supports you and drains you. And I think because you are such a pioneer in the tiny house movement, you're a perfect example of doing just that. What kind of life do I want? Even if no one that looks like me is doing it, this is what I want. And I'm going to create it no matter how many, obstacles I may face. I'm going to do it, and here's why. And then as a result, you found an even bigger why.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so the more that we do that, the more
Yeah.
we'll find ourselves happier, but also, realizing, oh, it's bigger than what I thought. What's
Absolutely.
the next step? What's the next journey? So
Absolutely.
I would just reiterate that point, especially as we go into a new year. What do you really want your home and your life to be? Because there's a lot of friction when we're constantly trying to do things that, if we really thought about it, we don't really want to do, or we don't it doesn't fit who we are.
Mm-hmm.
But we do it because we should, or it looks good on
Right.
paper, or
Right.
so on.
It's an
So as
expectation.
right,
Yes.
right. So as we go into the new year, I would just encourage everyone to give that some thought.
Yes. Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. And I agree with it. I keep going back to the quote of yours that I shared this morning about the creating the space and then the space creating you. Because absolutely, the community that shows up every Sunday for these conversations, I didn't see that in my original journey.
Hmm.
And so my house created this journey that has allowed me to be here, and then it just keeps recreating, and then it has given me, like you said, the why. My why continues to change. In the beginning, my why was one thing, and I was bumping up against a community that I didn't feel like wanted to wasn't responding to the things that I felt like were important in this housing conversation, especially to the Black and Brown communities. And then my why changed in, okay, let me go over here and gather these people that are missing from this conversation. And my community continues to grow and to support. And this is necessary work, like having conversations with you to understand how we need to see ourselves and how we need to celebrate ourselves and how we need to see more of ourselves, and showcase ourselves is absolutely, the conversation that needs to be had. And I always talk about, I don't like this. These conversations aren't about decor. Like I'm not talking about. Oh, look at it. What is that she's drinking out of, y'all? That's about to be like the bracelet. Okay, I have gotten totally distracted, but I'm gonna come back to that in just a minute. Um, but the I totally got distracted with that cup, and I lost my train of thought.
I'm
Um,
sorry.
I know what I'm saying. My conversations aren't really about pillows and all of those things. Like, I'm not talking about where you got your decor in the tiny house. Like, we're talking about deeper things than design. But
Oh yeah.
this conversation has been about design, but it has been about so much more than just the, I paid $9.99 for this pillow at Home Goods, and my style is, or my paint color is. That's not the conversations we're having. And so I so appreciate, you contributing to that conversation. And even though it wasn't necessarily tiny house related, it was absolutely tiny house related. So I appreciate you, being here and sharing in this conversation. They laughing at me. Like that cup, like she just keep throwing stuff up here like ain't nobody paying attention. Where did that cup come from? Did y'all see that on the site? Because I didn't see it on the site. Um,
This one's on the site.
I did see that one, but I'm talking about that other one that you just had a
Oh,
minute
this
ago.
one?
So she got two drinks, y'all.
Well, I
Um,
gotta
I,
have my tea and then I gotta have my water. So
okay, no, I
I
didn't
have my
see
hot
that one.
tea.
I didn't see that.
This is on my Society 6 page. I have a
Jewel makes
collection of
another
items.
note.
Yes, I have a collection of items on society6.com. You can search Reflection Design. If not, Joel, I'd be happy to send you the link if you want to share.
I think I already put it in the chat on Society. I mean, I put it in the video description, so it's out there, y'all. But Jewel has a list of 3 things now she got to buy. The cup you just slid on in there while we were talking, and the bracelets look are an aspiration once they get going.
Okay.
Did y'all see how she threw me off completely? I was talking about something important and got totally distracted.
It
Whew.
wasn't intentional. I often tell people I am my brand. I don't just
You
talk it,
are.
I live it.
Absolutely.
My
Absolutely. You
home,
just
like the
flipped your
photos I
little,
showed, that's my house. This is my house. The cup that I use every day. This is the cup that I use every
that's the
day for my
story that
water.
you're telling. Yes, absolutely. You're
You
telling the
know,
whole story like we said. And
yeah.
I'm paying attention to your story. I'm gonna need one of those. So I just had to make a note before I got thrown off completely. Um
Thank you.
Crystal said, "Oh Lord, about Society 6, another place to go broke." Anitra, thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing with us. And my community is saying thank you as well. And they're also commenting because I have shared with them before that I really had been thinking early on about moving this conversation from Sunday to another day. But it always is a good Sunday soul conversation, and I really appreciate
Mhm.
you, contributing to that, and sharing with us this morning. So I'm going to ask you to hold on. I'm going to do my close out, and if you'll just hold on. So, community, there are 2 things before I do my. Rosalind says she peeped both mugs at the beginning of the conversation, so y'all weren't going to tell me anything about it. Um, yeah, I had missed it and y'all didn't tell me anything about it. Key is saying, yes, we have to represent our brand, and she represents it for real. Okay, let me do my closeout. I do have some housekeeping stuff that I need to share with y'all. before we do the closeout. And I thank you all so much for being here on Sundays with me. I do see that y'all are working on a name for the community, so y'all keep me posted on what y'all come up with. I am so excited about this, and it's so funny to me. So, Crystal, thank you for corralling everyone, and y'all let me know what y'all come up with. I cannot wait. But I do want to share. Oh, thank you so much, Key. I do want to share this upcoming event. So I'm going to ask you all, I did share it on my socials. I'm going to ask you all to mark this on your calendar, April 13th and 14th, 2024, next year. This is an event that is in my area, Carolina Tiny House Festival. Um, Kim Delaney is a colleague of mine, and she is organizing this festival. I am a board member assisting. I am doing a call for speakers with this. So wait a minute. I got out of order. Call for speakers. So if you're interested in speaking at this event, I'm going to drop some links in the chat. I want you to attend the event, so let me take it back. So the website, I don't think is quite up yet. I know they're working on it. tinyhomefest.org is the website. It should be up shortly. But I'm also doing a call for speakers. So if you're interested in speaking, please feel free to use the link that I just dropped, and I'll share it in the video description to fill out the form to apply to speak at this event. The theme of the event is changing the face of affordable housing. So this is in Concord, North Carolina, which is a city right next to Charlotte. And Concord has just decided to allow tiny houses on foundation. And they haven't ruled out tiny houses on wheels. So we're still trying to do the work to encourage them to consider tiny houses on wheels. So come out and support if you're in this area, and would love to have you all support. The other thing I want to share is if you aren't on my mailing list, please get on my mailing list. I'm going to drop the chat, the link for this in the chat as well. Crystal, thank you. I saw you signed up on the mailing list. And so I am actually going to do a newsletter shortly. So please get on my mailing list because I'm trying to do all the things. And I saw a Patreon in the comments. We're going to talk about that next week because I have been working and I want y'all to know all of this work that I've been doing. So get on the mailing list so I can tell you. And I'm also going to talk about the Patreon that I am launching. So thank you again for y'all keeping me accountable because it's keeping me on track. So I appreciate y'all. I see some names are coming up. So we can talk about that next Sunday. I have an idea, but I want y'all to come up with it. Thank you for that encouragement for the Patreon. I'm on it. I appreciate y'all so much for holding me accountable. All right. Thank you. Thank you to our guest, Anitra. Thank you to my community that shows up and your engagement. I love and appreciate you all so much. It has been such a pleasure to be in this conversation with you all, and I appreciate you showing up every Sunday, supporting the way that you do. Have a great rest of your Sunday. Be careful. We'll be back next Sunday, and I thank you all so much. Take care, everybody. Thank you. This was wonderful. Thank you so much. I appreciate y'all.